She worked her whole life for peace and privacy, until her backyard turned into the neighborhood's free water park. At 35, Danielle Harris had finally built the life she wanted. Her two-story home in Mesa, Arizona stood proud with its well-kept lawn palm trees lining the fence, and at the heart of it all, her pride and joy, a sparkling blue pool. It was more than just water. It was a symbol of her independence, her hard work, her escape from the world. Danielle wasn't the kind to throw block parties or join gossip circles. She kept to herself, kept her yard pristine, and minded her business. But not everyone in the neighborhood shared that respect. One hot Saturday, she returned home from running errands and noticed something strange, wet footprints trailing from the backyard gate to the sidewalk. A damp towel was thrown over the fence, a soda can left on her chair, and her pool float had been moved. Her heart sank. Someone had been in her yard. She asked around, expecting concern. Instead, she got laughs and shrugs. "It's probably just one of the kids," a neighbor chuckled. "You've got a nice pool, people notice." That was the moment Danielle realized something troubling her neighbors didn't see what they were doing as wrong. And if they didn't respect her words, maybe they'd respect consequences. Danielle tightened the gate lock and tried to let it go, but some people only learn when the lesson stings. A week after the mysterious footprints, Danielle was reading on her couch when she heard splashing outside. At first, she thought it might be her pool filter. Then came laughter. She moved quietly to the back door, pulled the curtain aside, and froze. In her pool was a teenage boy swimming like he'd just rolled out of bed and decided this was his backyard. A girl, likely his sister, sat on the edge, dipping her feet in the water. They hadn't broken in to steal. They'd broken in to relax. Danielle threw open the door. "Excuse me." Both teens jumped, startled. The boy scrambled out of the pool, grabbing a towel that wasn't his. We didn't think you'd mind," he stammered. "You didn't think to ask," she snapped. "Who even are you?" The girl mumbled. "We lived 2 houses down before the two bolted out the gate, leaving puddles behind them." Danielle stood in shock, heart racing. What shocked her more wasn't just their audacity, but what happened next. She approached the kids' parents the following day, expecting at least an apology. Instead, she got a lecture. "Oh, come on," said the mother with a shrug. "They're just kids. It's 110 degrees. What's the big deal?" Danielle stared. "The big deal," she said slowly, "is that this is my property. My home. My pool. I didn't hand out invitations." The father barely looked up. "You're being dramatic." That word dramatic hit harder than any insult. It's what people say when they want to dismiss a woman for daring to have boundaries. Danielle bit back her anger and walked away. But her message was clear: this wasn't over. She had security cameras installed the very next day. Clear view of the gate, the pool, and every inch of her fence. For 2 weeks it worked. Not a footprint, not a splash, not a whisper. Then came a blazing Saturday in July. Danielle pulled into her driveway and saw the side gate, which she always locked, was cracked open. Her stomach dropped. She hurried around back and couldn't believe her eyes. Her yard looked like a summer pool party ad. Adults lounged in chairs they'd dragged over. Beer bottles were scattered on the grass. Someone had even set up a folding table with chips and soda. In her pool, 3 women stood waist-deep, chatting like it was their hotel spa. And there, waving at her like they were best friends, stood Lisa Myers, a neighbor from 3 houses down, who'd never once spoken to her before. "Hey, girl. Hope you don't mind we were melting out here." Danielle's jaw locked. Oh, she minded. "Every single one of you get out. Now." Some froze. Others exchanged looks like she was the rude one. Lisa rolled her eyes. "Don't be like that. It's just a pool. You weren't even home." Danielle stepped forward, her voice steady but fierce. "It's not just a pool. It's my pool, my yard, my rules. You don't live here. You don't pay for this, so get out, all of you." This time they moved. Slowly. Grumbling. Muttering. Lisa had the nerve to say, "You don't have to be so uptight." Danielle didn't yell. She just watched. Silent. furious. But inside a plan was forming. If respect didn't work, it was time for something that would. They had laughed at her silence. Now they were about to learn what Danielle Harris sounded like when she stopped being polite. After the unauthorized pool party in her backyard, Danielle knew she was done playing nice. She had tried reasoning. She had installed security cameras. She had even given people the benefit of the doubt. But now, it was time to send a message that no one could misunderstand. She sat at her kitchen table that night, watching the security footage again. Watching people she'd never met help themselves to her sanctuary like it was some public park. No shame, no permission, just entitlement. The next morning, she got to work. First, she drove to the hardware store and bought 2 industrial-grade padlocks, one for the side gate, one for the pool's control box. These weren't the average garden variety locks. These were the kind you'd need bolt cutters to get through. Then Danielle went online and ordered something special pool DAA, harmless but highly effective chemical used in public pools to discourage less than polite behavior. 1 drop of this clear liquid, and if someone so much as peed in the pool, the water would turn bright green. And even though no one had technically done that yet, it gave her an idea. She printed a custom sign and had it laminated. The next day, she drilled it right onto her backyard fence. It read, "Warning, pool chemically treated. Unauthorized use may result in severe rash, temporary skin discoloration, or irritation. Use at your own risk." Beneath it, she placed an empty industrial chemical container near the pool pump, something she got from a friend in maintenance. It looked dangerous. It wasn't. But perception is everything. And just like that, her trap was set. A few afternoons later, Danielle sat near her window with an iced tea, watching quietly as 2 teens strolled past her fence. They slowed when they spotted the sign. One whispered. The other pointed to the container. And then, just like that, they turned and walked the other way. Danielle smiled. Later that night, she checked Facebook. Sure enough, a post had popped up in the neighborhood group, FYI. Looks like Danielle put some kind of chemical in her pool. Says it causes rashes and skin problems. Just a heads up. The comments rolled in fast. That doesn't sound safe. Can that stuff get in the ground? Why is she so obsessed with that pool? It's just water, chill out. Danielle laughed out loud. They weren't mad because she lied. They were mad because the free ride was over. She didn't threaten. She didn't scream. She just let their own paranoia do the work. And it worked. No more visitors, no more towels on her fence, no more pool parties she didn't throw. But just when Danielle thought the worst was behind her, there came a knock on the door, sharp and impatient. She peeked through the peephole and sighed. There stood Lisa Myers, arms crossed, fuming. Danielle smiled. Let the real confrontation begin. Danielle opened the door slowly, her face calm. But her patience had run out days ago. Lisa Myers stood on the porch, arms crossed, fire in her eyes. "We need to talk," she said sharply, like she was the one owed an explanation. Danielle raised an eyebrow. Lisa pushed forward, uninvited. "People in the neighborhood are saying you put chemicals in your pool. Dangerous ones. With warnings about rashes and skin damage that's not okay." Danielle didn't blink. "I did," she replied evenly, "to keep uninvited guests out." Lisa gasped, as if personally attacked. "You can't do that. What if a child touches the water?" Danielle folded her arms. "A child who breaks into my yard." Lisa's mouth opened, then closed. "That's not the point," she snapped. Danielle stepped forward, voice steady and sharp. "It's exactly the point. I told everyone to stay out. I installed locks, cameras. I asked nicely. I warned people. But none of that mattered because you and your friends thought it was just a pool. Just water. Just mine." Lisa flushed. "You don't even have kids. The pool's just sitting there going to waste." Danielle laughed low and genuine. "So let me get this straight. Because I don't have children, I owe the neighborhood free access to my property." Lisa scoffed. "You're impossible. If you weren't so unfriendly, maybe people would actually like you." There it was. The real issue. Not the pool. Not the sign. Just the fact that Danielle had dared to say no. She leaned against the doorframe, unbothered. "That's your problem, Lisa. You think being liked means being walked all over. I don't need to be liked by people who disrespect me. Lisa's jaw clenched, but she had no comeback. She spun around, muttering, "Enjoy being the mean neighbor," as she stomped off the porch. Danielle didn't flinch. "Enjoy using your own hose this summer," she called after her, and shut the door with a quiet smile. The next morning, she added a final touch, a motion-activated sprinkler system hidden along the fence line, just in case someone thought about testing her again. They didn't. The pool stayed quiet. The towels disappeared. The entitlement vanished. For the first time in months, Danielle could walk into her own backyard, sit beside the water, and breathe. No tension. No trespassers. No knocking on her door like she owed the world an explanation. She hadn't done it to make enemies. She wasn't trying to shame anyone. All she ever wanted was to be left in peace, to have her space, her hard-earned property respected. But some people only understand boundaries once they're forced to see the fence. Danielle wasn't cruel. She was clear. And finally, they got the message. Danielle didn't win with threats or lawsuits. She won with boundaries and the courage to stand by them. The weeks that followed were quiet. Blissfully quiet. No more wet towels flung over her fence. No more strangers in her lounge chairs. No more neighborhood freeloaders treating her sanctuary like a public splash pad. The motion-activated sprinkler system never even had to go off. Just the idea of it, combined with the chemical sign, the fake hazmat container, and her no-nonsense tone, was enough to keep everyone out. And that was the point. Danielle wasn't trying to punish anyone. She didn't enjoy confrontation. In fact, for months, she had tried to avoid it. She gave her neighbors the benefit of the doubt. She offered polite warnings. She even installed cameras in hopes of deterring bad behavior. But time and again, her kindness was seen as weakness. It wasn't until she changed the rules of the game that people finally listened. She learned something powerful through it. Something that stretched far beyond the edge of her pool. People will take as much as you allow. Your time, your energy, your space, your kindness, and yes, even your backyard. If you don't draw a line, someone will walk right over you with wet footprints and a beer can in hand. But once you set that boundary and hold it with quiet confidence, they retreat. Maybe they get angry. Maybe they gossip. Maybe they call you mean. That's fine. You don't owe them access to your peace. One evening, Danielle sat out by her pool with a glass of iced tea, the sun setting over her silent yard. For the first time in months, she felt peace. Not the kind that comes from silence, but the kind that comes from self-respect. She had earned this home. Every tile, every gallon of water, every inch of grass. It wasn't just property, it was hers. And now, finally, it felt like it again. She never once called the police. She didn't need to. What she needed was to be heard. And when words failed, she let action speak. Her neighbors might not like her, but they respected her now. And sometimes that's the only like you need. Respect starts where tolerance ends. People won't always value your boundaries, but that doesn't mean you stop setting them. Whether it's your yard, your time, or your energy, you get to decide who gets access to it. Protecting your peace isn't root, it's essential. Have you ever had to stand your ground like Danielle? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear how you drew the line. And if this story inspired, you don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more real-life lessons that prove standing tall doesn't require raising your voice, just raising your standards.